New York City, a lien or a deed state? Let's dig into this. This is a big one. New York, the state, not the city. Is it a lien or a deed state? This is going to be a big one. I think you're going to like what you hear. New York, the state, is famous for its diversity, and guess what? Their tax liens and deeds are the same thing. Let's dig into that. New York's famous for its diversity. They have over 800 languages they speak there. 8 million people live there. It's one of the main hubs of immigrants coming into this country. There's all sorts of things going on there. So we're going to show you how to take advantage of all of that in this video. So stay tuned for that. In the meantime, subscribe, like, hit the bells, do all those great things, and we'll go forward from there. Now let me tell you about New York. New York is what I call a dual state. Actually, you could almost call it a quadruple state, okay? They have liens and they have deeds. They have both. And it just depends on what the counties want to do. But also, you've got counties, you've got boroughs, you've got cities, you've got all sorts of different municipalities that can offer tax liens or tax deeds. Now, the boroughs, we've all heard of the Bronx and Brooklyn and all that, and Long Island. Those are the boroughs of the New York City area. Those are mostly lien situations, okay? You're bidding down the interest. The interest rate on these things can be, well, it depends on what you want to do. They start out at 10% and you can bid them down to 0 on that. Okay, so those are the liens involved in that situation. The deeds can be done randomly and they're done all over. Okay, so all over the state of New York. Now, for those of you who haven't been anywhere else but New York City, New York is a very big state in the Northwest area, and it's beautiful. Okay, they've got mountains, they've got camping, they've got hunting, they got all of these things that you don't think of when you think of New York. Okay, you think of New York City because of all the movies and what have you. But here's the great thing about New York. New York has liens in the boroughs and what have you, and most of the other counties out there just kind of say, we're going to have some deeds. So the way it works in New York is once a property has been delinquent more than 2 years, the county can just, whether it's been for a sale or not, they can say, we're going to go ahead and hold a deed sale on this. So in most counties in New York, when they announce the sale, most of the information is going to be on the list. And this is kind of unique for most places around the country. So in other words, when they announce the sale, they're going to give the address, the parcel number, all of the information on the relative property on there. So you'll have a lot of information going in there. We've had some very successful clients taking advantage of New York. But like any place out there, you got to do your research on this. Whether they give me all this information, I do not trust addresses from counties. Okay, remember, tax liens and tax deeds are different than any kind of real estate investing that you've ever done before. They're not saying, hey, here's the address of the property, go take a look at it and tell me what you think. They're saying this is the property that's delinquent on taxes. The only thing I ever trust, regardless of what the county is going to give me, is the parcel number. Okay, the parcel number, I'm going to match it up. And if it matches up to that street address, now I'm good with the street address. But I have never been on a list or researched a list that hasn't had a mistake on it. And New York's not going to be any different at it. So don't always trust the list that they have out there as far as being the accurate address, even though that's a little convenient because you're going, this is what they're showing, here's the parcel number, and it's really easy to trace that back to see if the address is matching up. That's very important. Now remember, understand what kind of a sale you're going to. Are you going to a lien sale, going to a deed sale? Those are two different types of research roads you're forking off. With a lien sale, I'm just buying the lien on the property. Now, I'm not a particular fan of a 10% interest rate that bid down on that. It leaves too much room. There's too many other places to go to get higher interest rates on it. What I love about New York is those deed sales. So like with any other deed sale out there, you have to do your research on this, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all of those properties, I'm going to find out what liens are on the property, make sure all of them are being notified, find out what their notification process is, what their bidding process is, and also how do I get registered? When I register for a sale, can I register my LLC? Do I have to register? What are all those factors that are going to make it happen? And I also want to have my 3 exit strategies. So if I do win this property at this max bid, what 3 things can I do to get out of this property? One of the things I don't want you doing is painting yourself into a corner. What I mean by that is you get a property and get, I'm going to fix and flip. I'm going to fix and flip. I hear this all the time. I mean, if I buy a property, let's say I pay $30,000 for it. that's worth an ARV of $200,000, and somebody says, I'll give you 70 right now, they just bought the property. The property's telling me to sell it, okay? So I wholesale it, I made some money real quick. This is the velocity of money, okay? Now, if I get that property, say nobody wholesales on it, but all of a sudden I'm looking at it and going, God, this is only gonna take about $15,000 to rehab, and the rent in this area is $2,500 a month. Property's kind of telling me to rent the property. Now, if I fix this property up and I go, wait a second, my ARV is most likely up here at $250,000, maybe even $300,000, it could be telling me to sell the property. Like any state that you're doing business in, make sure you're aware of the regulations. Okay, New York and California are notorious for their overbearing governmental regulations in there. And New York, just they match California hand in fist. I hear so many of my students say, do not become a landlord in New York. Now, obviously, there's a lot of landlords in New York, so somebody's doing it and somebody's doing it successfully. I'm not, because I kind of agree with that. There's too many other states that make it easier. So I might want that exit strategy that gets me out. But understand that every county is a little different. So although one particular area might have rent restrictions, might have laws that don't favor you, all of the horror stories I've heard are pretty extensive. Okay, as you get away from the boroughs and go into the more of the rural areas, some of that could soften up a little bit. But don't count on it. Find out what the rules are for those particular areas so you can either stay away or take advantage of what other people aren't even aware of. Okay, and that goes with anywhere, not just New York. If I'm getting a rental property in any state out there, I want to know what my rights are as a landlord. What is the process of eviction? How long do I have to notify them? All of those things that you want to make sure that you have in place and understand who that is or how that works. The other thing I want to look at is when you're renting a property out anywhere in the country, make sure that you have some kind of a safety net on there. Something that I've started doing since the internet started coming around is I provide free internet to every single property I rent out. Okay, let me tell you why. I can't turn off the water, I can't turn off the power, but if they don't pay rent, I can't turn off the internet. And you'll see how quickly, if any of you have kids out there and you've taken the cell phone away from the kid and you watch them go through their convulsions, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You cut that high-speed internet off and you'll probably get a phone call real quickly on that. It's just a little tidbit that I want to share with you that's worked really well in the past. Also, when you're looking at rental properties, make sure that you have a rental company that's doing this for you. It's okay to do one or two after that, but after that, take that responsibility and put it on to somebody else. Pay them the fee that they need for that and just start getting more of those. Concentrate on getting more properties, not more headaches. Okay. Now, if you do rentals right, there won't be the headaches that you hear about. Okay, again, make sure you understand what the rules are in the local area so you can take advantage of that and you're not putting yourself in a precarious situation, which you can in some of the states out there that don't favor the landlords on that. Very important to understand. So think about this for a minute. In New York, you can buy the liens all day long, but all the states have these things where they can sell deeds at any time. They don't have any really scheduled sales on it, which may sound a little odd for me saying that's a benefit. The reason it's a benefit is because nobody's ever tracking these sales, so you really have to be on that to make it happen. They also make research a little quirky in New York. Sometimes when you're pulling up information on properties, there are third parties that are housing some of the assessor's cards and stuff like that on the property, which again makes it a little more difficult. Anytime a county is making the research more difficult, it's not personal. I know they're not directing it towards me. They're doing it to everybody. That means everybody's having the same problem with it. For instance, years ago, I was going to an auction. I do believe this was in Pennsylvania. And I called the guy up because a sale was coming up, called the county. This guy answers the phone. I said, hey, I'm looking for the list for the upcoming sale. He says, yeah, we have it here. I says, can you send it out? And how much does it cost? He says, we don't do that. I go, you don't send out the list? He said, no, he don't send out the list. I said, okay. Well, can I have somebody come by and pick one up? He says, no, we have one list and it's in the public space out there and it's in the lobby. I said, so you got one list and you don't make copies of that? He says, no, you have to look at it inside the hallway. So I was like, okay, well, that's interesting. But I know he's not doing that to me. He's doing that with everybody that calls. So what I did in that situation, I just hired somebody for $150, somebody from a title company to come down there and literally write out all the properties. There was like 36 properties coming up for a deed sale. But guess what? I was one of the only people that had that list that wasn't in the building on that. So when you find these little roadblocks, speed bumps, get excited. How do you work around it? How is this going to work to your favor? And how can you make some money on it? This is what makes tax liens and tax deeds so unique. It's difficult to get in, but once you understand, you know what you're doing, you can go from there, okay? Now, speaking of understanding what you're doing, if you want some extended training on it, I've got it available. It's free. I put it out there. Make sure you guys are trained properly. Just go to higginsmethod.com. I've got a whole extensive video on that I'm really proud of. Also, when you do that, I'll send you out a complimentary book, America's Secret Investment Strategy. We'll send that out to you, my gift to you. So this is Saen Higgins saying good luck and be careful.